Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, esteemed media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and good afternoon and good evening from all across the globe. I am Hadir, and it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to the Integrated Route 1 Destination event. Egypt Marketplace offers manufacturers and developers high-value position with a population of over 100 million inhabitants. Egypt is the largest consumers market in the Middle East, representing a huge potential for consumer goods manufacturers, again giving us access to a large consumer base. The event, named Integrated Route 1 Destination, is dedicated to discuss and demonstrate SCZONE's plans to become a leading world-class economic hub and a preferred destination for investment, capitalizing one's SCZONE's role as a global logistics hub amid international supply chains. SCZONE is dynamically contributing to Egypt's growth rate, positioning itself as international investment hub and an export platform with a distinctive access to Africa, covering a total area of 461 kilometers, including 4 industrial zones and 6 seaports. SCZONE is located at the heart of the global trade route, namely the Suez Canal, where 12% of the international trade and over 18,000 ships passing through each year. SCZONE adopts an investor-friendly business environment that stands as the cornerstone for national development plans. SCZONE provides an all-round business environment to support new business, while also supporting existing investors in order to expand, eventually creating job opportunities and boosting economic development. To deliver the opening keynote, it's our great honor to introduce to you today one of our most distinguished guests, His Excellency Engineer Yahya Zaki, Chairman Suez Canal Economic Zone. And also, he will give us a presentation about the SCZONE.
صباح الخير، ازي حضرتك؟ صباح الخير. Good morning all. Is this working? Good morning, welcome all, and thank you for attending this session. I would also like to welcome people who are virtually connected to this session as well. Thank you for sharing your time with us. It's really my pleasure to be here today, and let me first welcome Admiral Osama Rabia, Chairman of Suez Canal Authority. I represent the Suez Canal Economic Zone, and the economic zone around the Suez Canal cannot and will not survive without the Suez Canal itself. So we are two partners, and we rely a lot on the Suez Canal and its success stories all over the years. So we have the privilege of having Admiral Osama with us today, and he will be giving you a quick address too. I would like to give you a quick presentation on the Suez Canal Economic Zone, where we started, where we are now, and where we're heading. Then we have very distinguished panel guests that we're going to be discussing with you their experience in the economic zone, and they are really our partners in taking this over and achieving our strategy in the near future as well. So without further delays, let me please start with you the presentation itself. Can I have a pointer, please? Pointer? Okay, I don't think the pointer is working. Okay. All right. The economic zone, and as one of the mega national projects in Egypt, is really within the vision of 2030 provided by the Egyptian government, and with full support from its leadership, from President Sisi and the whole government. It is very important to align the development of the economic zone with the vision of Egypt 2030. And that really capitalizes with why Egypt itself. As mentioned, Egypt has the highest GDP in Africa, the second highest GDP in Africa, the second highest population in Africa, and the highest in the Middle East, over 100 million people. That made us also a very attractive domestic consumer market in the Middle East and Africa, the first. And with a 2.8 growth in 2020, 2021, despite the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. Last week, also, the economic outlook, according to Fitch, affirmed that Egypt at B+, this month, last week, as I've mentioned. So Egypt enjoys to have a good economic background, and it also enjoys a very reasonable level of connectivity with the African continent. Africa to us is a very important continent. It is important that we look into how to develop more with Africa, and the connectivity to the African continent is one of the very important elements that is taking place. And I want to highlight here specifically the yellow road, which is Cairo-Cape Town, 11,000 kilometers of road that is to be in full operation by 2023. A big part of it is already constructed and should be in full operation in 2023, which will give great accessibility to African continent, Eastern Africa, and all the way to South Africa. Egypt as well, and accordingly the economic zone enjoys a number of free trade agreements, which gives accessibility to more than 2 billion consumers around the world, and a very strong local market, over 100 million consumers in Egypt itself. So the location is a very important element to the Suez Canal economic zone, and all the investments and all the developments that take place within the zone enjoy all these treaties and accessibility to global, international, and local market as well. This slide goes back to 2015 when the whole story started. Let me also welcome a colleague of mine, Melham Suleiman. He's with us today. He was the project manager on this project. He's a partner in crime with us here. I was, and of course, Dr. Hani. We were a very strong team that looked into preparing the strategic master plan for the economic zone around the Suez Canal. At the time, we came up with this regional context, how to develop not only an economic zone, but how to put it in a regional context, especially that 12% of the international route passes through the Suez Canal, 10% of the seaborne trade, and over 18,000 ships cross the canal every year, and I think you're going to listen to Admiral Osama Rabia. Even this figure is getting higher this year. So it was very important to capitalize on this. This is a slide that we showed in the economic conference in 2015 in Sharm el-Sheikh, when the whole story really started. At the time, as I mentioned, it was very important to look into the context of the economic zone and how to give it the regional context, and how to tie it into inland Egypt, how to tie it to Cairo, and how to tie it to what used to be a very small dot at the time called the new administrative area, which is now a reality. And it was very important at the time also to give the government and to give all the authorities involved all the needed connectivity, to secure the success of the Suez Canal, whether roads or tunnels around the economic zone and around the Suez Canal itself. In 2015, yes, our vision remains to become a leading world-class economic hub and a preferred destination for investment, with contributing to creating quality jobs in Egypt. That the vision was for the year 2030 and beyond. And actually, I will walk you through three stages of this strategy and this vision. The first one, which we label it 2015-2020, which is the time where we've prepared the zone to reach where we are now. Then we're going to be talking about 2020-2025 strategic plan for enabling the zone and the investments and the ports within a renewed strategy, updated strategy, to be able then to go to the last stage, which is to really fix and localize all our developments. This is where we are after 5 years. We have, as mentioned, 6 ports that are operated by the economic zone, 3 along the Mediterranean and 3 along the Gulf of Suez or the Red Sea. We have 4 industrial areas at different locations around the Suez Canal itself, whether north or south or east or west of the canal. We have 3 main port operators, and I'm happy that they are represented here with us today, so thank you for sharing your time with us. The area of the economic zone between the ports and the industrial area is 461 square kilometers, 461 million square meters, and we do have 14 industrial operators currently working in the economic zone. And again, I thank a number of developers that are joining us today, and you're going to have a chance to listen to what they have to present as well. There are already above 100,000 jobs that are already created within the zone, and we have 250 establishments within the zone. 200 of them are factories that are in production. The other 50 are service providers, like banks, like consultants, and so on. So this is where we stand today, after 5 years of the establishment of the economic zone. I've showed you the slide of the regional context and the importance of having roads and tunnels at 2015. And actually the plan was to achieve all types of connectivity beyond 2020, but actually the Egyptian government and the economic zone went into a very aggressive scheme by really executing all what you see here in this slide. I'm proud to say that all roads, all tunnels you are seeing here are already completed and in operation. That made a huge difference to the connectivity, to the ecosystem and readiness of the economic zone. That was a very important element to secure the success of the Suez Canal and the readiness of the economic zone. Just to give a quick example, on top there you see Port Said tunnels, and we have our colleagues here from SCCT. I think containers used to cross the canal before the tunnels in something like 24 hours maybe. Now it takes less than 1 hour to cross the tunnels. So that made a huge difference to the operation of the ports and to the accessibility of the industrial areas altogether. So this slide is a very important enabler to put the economic zone on its ecosystem and readiness to a great extent. I'll share with you very quickly the main components of the economic zone right now. This slide is the integrated SCZONE area, which really comprises the industrial zone and SCZONE port. Collectively, SCZONE integrated area is 210 square kilometers, which makes it the biggest maybe in the world as an integrated area between industries, logistics, and the port itself. Part of this zone, which is the southern part down there, is some developments that already took place, and we have a number of success projects that are happening there, and most of the 250 establishments I talked about are within this area, while the northern side over here is greenfield that we are developing, integrating it with all the facilities that are provided within the southern area here, and making all linkage to the SCZONE port that is currently operated by our friends from DP World, and currently going through a great expansion project that I'm going to show you right now. But this is collectively the SCZONE integrated zone. We have a number of success stories here, a number of factories that are world-class factories that are really providing excellent services, excellent products for production that are already functioning within the zone. And I hope some time you can all come and visit these factories and setups to see what's happening there. This slide shows you the SCZONE port, which is 23 square kilometers in area, making it the largest or the biggest port in terms of area in Egypt. And currently it is under operation of Terminal 1 and 2 by DP World, but we are embarking into developing the full master plan of this port with a 12-kilometer length of quay wall, which will provide 500,000 square meters of terminals of different usages, the tunnels, and the road itself that is separating the left-hand side, which is the industrial area, to the port, is also under development project as well, to widen the road and to provide all necessary connectivity to it. These are some pictures of the current Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 operated by DP World. Terminal 2 is just in operation maybe this month, so that adds to the capacity of the economic zone and a capacity of the operation in SCZONE port for Terminal 1 and 2. As I've mentioned, besides the Terminal 1 and 2, we have the liquid bulk terminal, which is also a very important element that serves serves Egypt in general for all its requirement of liquid bulk requirements. And on the right-hand side here, you can see some ongoing projects related to the development of the new work in the port itself. As we've mentioned, the SCZONE integrated area, now this is the Port Said integrated area, East Port Said integrated area. As you can see it here, it is also comprised of East Port Said port, which is already expanded and completed within the first 5 years of the economic zone, and it is already in operation. And we have at the bottom here the industrial area, 64 square kilometers kilometers of area. We are starting with 16 square kilometers, and we have already the first development that is taking place by East Port Said company, and you're going to hear from Mr. Karim Sami Saad about it with the first 4 square kilometers that are taking place here. It's important to note here that East Port Said, different from SCZONE, is a green field. We're starting here a project on highest technology, on highest infrastructure requirements, on highest level of performance in relation to the port itself, to give East Port Said altogether its full requirement in terms of operational and linkage between the industrial area and the port itself. This is a plan of the port. Of course, we're all proud with what we see at the container terminal operated by SCT, which is in the purple color over there. We have completed 5 kilometers of quay wall and preparing now the terminals for them. I am happy to share with you that we already have a contract with Toyota, Borole, and NYK for the Roro terminal in the blue over there. We have a contract for the dry bulk, and we are in discussion of some expansion for the container terminal, in addition to the multi-purpose terminal in green over there. All these are under, part of it is already contracted, others are already in the final stages of completion. So in less than 18 months from now, all these terminals will be in full operation, coinciding with the development that's taking place in the industrial area. So this will give the whole boost that is planned for the East Port Said development altogether. This is a photo I like always to share. I give the credit to SCCT. We took it from you, as you know. This is East Port Said terminal, where we had last month 2 ships Triple E being served at the same time in the port. Each ship, please correct me, had something in excess of 18,000 containers. So at the time, we had 60,000 containers at the same time. I hope in the near future, with all the development taking place in the port and the industrial area, we will be able to offload all the containers that are in these ships and process all the requirement in East Port Said. I'm sure we're gonna be able to do this, but this is something important to share with you. It's a milestone, it's a step, but our ambition is really endless, endless. Okay, to have the ecosystem work, okay, we could not have this without having proper infrastructure in the area. So the economic zone took a lot of steps to establish the utilities infrastructure with over $2.3 billion of investment that was put in desalination projects, whether in SCZONE or in Port Said, so to provide the water supply, the power supply, the sewage treatment, the communication, and the natural gas. We have created what is needed for 5 or 6 years requirement from now on of infrastructure. But this is not the whole master plan. We still need to do more for the coming stages. But now, right now, we do have a good base of infrastructure at a very good quality that serves all areas in the economic zone. These are some examples of the water desalination plant in SCZONE, the water treatment plant in SCZONE as well, which is already in operation, and the SCZONE water storage tanks, 100,000 cubic meters per day, and the power stations. I've mentioned in the beginning the roads and tunnels, so again, I have to repeat this. This is very important element for the connectivity and for the readiness of the zone and it's really in full operation right now. Okay, that is related to the readiness and the infrastructure, but it is also quite important that we have also the proper incentives to be able to offer for investment, whether for exportation or for dealing with the local market. So working in the zone has a very clear set of incentives, whether for, as I'm saying, exportation or dealing with the local market, whether zero custom tax, whether have zero value-added tax, VAT for exportation, 50% corporate tax exemption for an incentive of 7 years. We have incentives for labor-intense projects. We have a new customs guidelines that is established in 2020 with the program for digital transformation. We also have a very important element which we have managed to achieve this year, which is the regulations for export and import regulations, which means really dealing with the local market. One of the main obstacles that most investors had problem with in the past, we've managed to clear this and have very clear set of regulations on dealing with the local market. Also, the economic zone is now under the export support program, which is a very important initiative from the Egyptian government, and it is already applied on the economic zone. And we have also provided a 5-year residency permit for foreign investors working in the zone. This is just a glimpse of what we have. Each one of them has its full details, and we will be happy to share with you these details at your convenience. That's all where we were 5 years, and importantly to look into now we are in the position to enable the economic zone to do its to achieve its vision and to share with the investors their kickoff for the next stage, which is 2020-25 strategy. We have developed a number of objectives to be able to achieve our objectives. I'm not going to go through them all, but it basically addresses different types of businesses. But the important factors here are the main 3 ones there is to create job opportunities, immediate opportunities within the zone. And this is something that my colleagues and our guests here in the panel are going to be talking about, whether in the industrial area or the ports itself. We are targeting to localize specific projects, specific industries into the zone to substitute imports, and to look into developing industrial clusters policy within our zones. So to be able to work this strategy, we have identified 5 main pillars on going about them. One, addressing the ecosystem to set up the readiness, complete what we're doing already, work on the regulatory framework, on the financial incentives, service level provided, and the cost positioning. Each one of these pillars has its own subtasks, and we are working in each and every one of them to be able to achieve this strategy. Accordingly, beyond the 2025, we're starting now, but by 2025 we want to be in good position addressing these 15 sectors. The sectors that we have identified as the most suitable for starting now, if not already started, in the economic zone. 3 of these sectors are non-industrial, namely the bunkering, the logistics, and the data centers. The remaining 12 are the industrial, different industrial sectors that we are targeting, or we have already started in each one of them. I would like to share with you that we have done, why did we select this? We selected these sectors based on economic study that we have conducted, whether in-house or with external consultants. And we've made like a deep dive study for each of these sectors to see why there is a need, why Egypt, why the economic zone, and we have some macro high-level indicators of each one of these sectors. To give you an example here, like the tires, I'm not going to go through all the information, but we have most of the statistical information, why the demand, where it is, and we have come up with a different approach for the local demand, for the local supply, and the opportunities in each of these sectors. The reason we've done this is to be able to rather discussing the whole holistic approach of the economic zone, but to discuss on specific sectors one-to-one with identified companies our need. Here is like the batteries, I think, were here, yes, and the global market and the requirements. And as I mentioned, we are quite prepared now to be sharing this one-to-one with interested companies, and we have already identified companies that we would like to share with you about. Casting and foundry, which is something that we are considering for East Said as well, which is a very important element. We looked into, again, the demand and the requirements and the investment cost and how the market is being served. And we have the advantages versus different other areas when localizing such projects and sectors within the economic zone. I'll just go quickly through most of them. I'll not go through the details, but I just want to share with you that these details are available, and we'll be very happy to talk about any one of them with interested companies. Yeah. I also bunkering and marine services, which is a very important non-industrial sector that is already under full discussion, and we do have the support of the Suez Canal Authority on this, and we're working hand in hand, and I hope before the end of this year we would have the first concessions completed for this service. Yeah. Let me say that after this workshop, we will distribute you a soft copy of all the information that we have here. Just wanted to show you these slides. Let me go to the last one here. Yes, this is the website, which you will find all the information that we talked about and much more, and it can be scanned, and we're going to circulate it after this presentation as well. Thank you. I think I took a bit more time than what is provided for me, but I'll be happy to entertain any of your requirements or your questions in due time. Thank you very much, and I think we're going to listen to Tarek. تفضل. Sit.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Engineer Yahya Zaki. And now we would like to welcome His Excellency Admiral Osama Rabia, Chairman and Managing Director, Suez Canal Authority.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السيدات والسادة، يسعدني أن أقف اليوم بينكم متحدثا وممثلا لهيئة قناة السويس المسؤولة عن إدارة واحد من أهم المرافق الملاحية العالمية، والذي يحتل الصدارة كأحد أكثر الممرات الملاحية التي تعبرها حركة التجارة العالمية بمقدار بحوالي 12%. وانطلاقا من الرؤية الاستراتيجية التي تبناها الجمهورية الجديدة التي أعلن عنها فخامة الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي، والتي تسعى لتعظيم الاستفادة من كافة الأصول والموارد الطبيعية والبشرية التي تتمتع بها مصر، كان للدولة المصرية الرؤية استثمارية وأداها أن هذا الممر البحري العالمي البالغ الأهمية الذي يربط بين الشرق والغرب، ويشكل الحلقة الأهم في حركة التجارة المنقولة بحرا وسلاسل الإمداد العالمية. هو بطبيعته يشكل حجر الزاوية لإقامة منطقة اقتصادية وصناعية ولوجستية ذات جاذبية استثمارية عالمية، وذلك لتحقيق أقصى استفادة ممكنة من الموقع الاستراتيجي الذي تحتله قناة السويس، والتي تقع على ضفتها الشرقية سيناء بامتدادها الآسيوي، وعلى ضفتها الغربية من القناة ذات التاريخ والأهمية الاقتصادية والصناعية المعروفة. ولعل هذا ما يمنح المنطقة الاقتصادية لقناة السويس خصوصية متفردة تجعل منها بحق قاطرة التنمية الاقتصادية في مصر، والواجهة الواعدة الجاذبة للاستثمارات الأجنبية والمحلية في المنطقة بأسرها، نظرا لما تتمتع به من موقع جغرافي استثنائي وزخم من المشروعات الصناعية واللوجستية والاستثمارات العالمية القائمة بالفعل، مع وجود 6 مواني مطلة على البحرين المتوسط والأحمر في ظل بيئة تشريعية جاذبة للاستثمار وحوافز جمركية تنافسية، فضلا عن اتفاقات التجارة الحرة التي تسمح للبضائع المصنعة داخل المنطقة بالنفاذ للأسواق العالمية، وهو ما يؤهل المنطقة الاقتصادية لقناة السويس كي تصبح محورا عالميا لصناعات القيمة المضافة، وجعلها قادرة على منافسة كبرى المناطق الاقتصادية المماثلة في أي مكان في العالم، وهو ما يؤثر بالتبعية على قناة السويس بصورة إيجابية. فازدهار المنطقة الاقتصادية يمثل عنصر جذب لمزيد من السفن والحملات لعبور قناة السويس، بما يسهم في تعزيز معدلات حركة الملاحة بالقناة على المدى الطويل. ومن هنا كان لهيئة قناة السويس دورها الهام والمتواصل في التعاون مع الهيئة العامة للمنطقة الاقتصادية لقناة السويس، بغية توفير كافة الإمكانيات لجعلها جاذبة للاستثمارات العالمية والمحلية، وتعزيز قدرتها على جذب المشروعات الصناعية والاستثمارية الكبرى، وذلك من خلال العديد من المحاور التي تستهدف تحقيق إطار عام من التكامل بين هيئة قناة السويس والهيئة العامة للمنطقة الاقتصادية، وهو الإطار الذي يشمل عددا كبيرا من المشروعات، لعل من أهمها أولا قيام الهيئة بتنفيذ مشروع قناة السويس قناة شرق بورسعيد الجانبية حتى تتمكن السفن من الدخول إلى الميناء مباشرة دون التقيد بالقافلة العابرة لقناة السويس، الأمر الذي أسهم بقوة في توفير المزيد من الوقت والنفقات للخطوط الملاحية المتجهة إلى ميناء شرق بورسعيد. ثانيا، نفذت هيئة قناة السويس مشروعا عملاقا للتكريك في ميناء شرق بورسعيد، مما أدى لوصول غطس الميناء إلى 18 متر، وهو ما يسمح له باستقبال السفن العملاقة من الجيل الرابع ذات الغواطس الكبيرة، وهو ما انعكس إيجابيا على زيادة معدلات التداول وتحقيق طفرة في معدلات التشغيل بالميناء. السيدات والسادة، منذ عام 2020 يمر العالم أجمع بشكل عام وحركة التجارة العالمية بشكل خاص بتحديات صعبة وطارئة، وهو ما شكل اختبارا حقيقيا لقدرة هيئة قناة السويس على الإبحار وسط الأنواء بكل ثقة، مستندة إلى خبرات متراكمة عبر عشرات السنين، إلى جانب إرادة أبنائها وقدرتهم على مواجهة أي أزمات، ولعل من أبرزها أزمة فيروس كورونا المستجد. فبالرغم من تبعات الأزمة السلبية على معدلات حركة التجارة العالمية، إلا أن قناة السويس حافظت على معدلات عبور السفن والحمولات بنسبة مقاربة لمعدلات ما قبل الجائحة، ولم تتوقف الملاحة في القناة، بل قمنا بتنفيذ بعدد كبير من عمليات العبور الغير تقليدية بنجاح باهر نال شهادة كبرى المؤسسات المعنية بالاقتصاد والنقل البحري. وفي ذات السياق أود أن أشير إلى ما حققته الهيئة في أزمة جنوح السفينة إيفر جيفن بإمكانياتها الذاتية وبسواعد أبنائها من إدارة نجاح للأزمة بأبعادها الثلاثة. البعد الأول كان تعويم السفينة دون حدوث أي أضرار بالبضائع أو بدن السفينة أو الطاقم، إنما البعد الثاني يتمثل في استيعاب عبور 422 سفينة منتظرة في مدخلي القناة الشمالي والجنوبي خلال أقل من 4 أيام، بمعدل بعد تعويم السفينة بمعدل أكثر من 100 عملية عبور يوميا، مع توفير كافة الخدمات اللوجستية لهذه السفن بالكامل. أما البعد الثالث تمثل في إدارة عملية التفاوض بنجاح، بما يرسخ مكانة هيئة قناة السويس كمؤسسة عالمية قادرة على إدارة شريان ملاحي بهذا الحجم. استحرص هيئة قناة السويس على تقديم كافة الخدمات الممكنة لعملائها بأعلى جودة وكفاءة، وضمن دراسات معدة جيدا لتلبية احتياجات السفن والتحالفات الملاحية العالمية العابرة، بما يتيح خدمات القناة وفق ما يتطلع إليه شركائنا الدوليون. وفي هذا الصدد تقوم هيئة قناة السويس ضمن رؤيتها للحفاظ على موقع الصدارة بين الممرات الملاحية العالمية ومواكبة التطورات المتسارعة في صناعة بناء السفن بتنفيذ مشروع القطاع الجنوبي بطول 40 كيلومتر، والذي يتضمن أعمال توسعة وتعميق وازدواج، وهو ما يرتفع معدلات الأمان الملاحي للسفن العابرة بنسبة 28%، ويعزز من قدرة الاستيعابية لقناة السويس بواقع 6 سفن إضافية، فضلا عن زيادة الحمولات العابرة، بما يسهم بالتبعية في زيادة تدفق البضائع والمواد الخام للمناطق الصناعية والاستثمارية بالمنطقة الاقتصادية لقناة السويس. إنما تقوم بها هيئة قناة السويس من إجراءات وتنفيذ المشروعات لمواكبة متغيرات حركة الملاحة والتجارة العالمية لا تغيب عنه الرؤية المتكاملية مع الأهداف التي تسعى لتحقيقها الهيئة العامة للمنطقة الاقتصادية لقناة السويس. فالتحقيق التكامل بين الهيئتين هو أحد تجليات الدعم والاهتمام الكبير الذي توليه الدولة المصرية بقيادة فخامة الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي للمنطقة الاقتصادية بهدف تحديث بنيتها الأساسية وتطوير الموانئ والمرافق والخدمات اللوجستية التي تتمتع بها. في ختام حديثي أتوجه إلى إدارة الهيئة العامة للمنطقة الاقتصادية لقناة السويس برئاسة السيد المهندس يحيى زكي بأطيب التمنيات بالسداد والتوفيق في تعزيز مكانة المنطقة الاقتصادية على خارطة المناطق الاقتصادية والصناعية العالمية العملاقة. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you so much, Admiral Osama Rabia. And now we will start our panel for today. So I would like to invite our speakers in the stage, Mr. Stephen Yogalingam, Chairman and Managing Director, Suez Canal Container Terminal, SCCT. Engineer Karim Sami Saad, Chairman, Samcrete and Chairman, East Port Said Development Company, EP. Mr. Mike Whitefield, Managing Director, Nissan Africa and Chairman, Association of Africa Automotive Manufacturers, AAAM. Mr. Yashuhiro Hidaka, General Manager, Toyota Tasushu, Egypt Branch. Engineer Ahmed Sadiq Swedi, President and CEO, Swedi Electric SAE. And the moderator of the panel, Dr. Hani Sarayedin, founder and managing partner of Sarayedin and Partners Legal Advisor, Professor of Law at Cairo University.
Just one note. After this panel and after the questions and answers, we have organized a special VIP tour to the Egyptian pavilion. So we invite you all. Starting at 2? Okay. It says here 1:30, but okay, it's 2. So we invite you all to be part of this visit. Yeah. Thank you.
Shall we start?
Sure.
Good morning. We would like to welcome all of you here. The mic is okay?
Yes.
It's working. Okay. Would like to welcome you all here. I'm very proud to be part of this session. We had like a dream in 2015 when we started the process of and had the opportunity to work with engineer Yahya Zaki in preparation for SCZONE. I was in charge of the regulatory and legal part. Our objective was actually at that time, from a regulatory perspective, to enable the SCZONE to be, in a positive sense, a state within the state. In other words, to enable the authority to act as not only as facilitator but also as a regulator within the SCZONE to enable the investors and to or to cross all the bureaucracies that Egypt has been facing at that time. I think SCZONE is doing well in that respect. And the most important objective, probably not this session in itself, rather than the B2B meetings. However, I would like in this session, you all being involved in SCZONE, so I think it will be very important to share your experience, your vision, not only talking about the advantages, but also the, I would say, impediments that SCZONE need to work on to put it on the right place. Of course, The location is fantastic. The facilities are fantastic. The infrastructure is there. The potential is there, so the competitiveness edge is there. You have the Suez Canal, you have 6 ports. I know we talked only today about the East Port Said and Ain Sukhna, but there are other 4 ports that can be also used. So I don't think there is any other economic zone that enjoy that location and that infrastructure. So probably we expect from Engineer Yahya more and more on this to capitalize on what we have. So let me actually have a lot of difficulty in talking with this thing, and I have difficulty to breathe. So let me, since I have the vaccination, probably I can take this off. I would like to start, according to what I have, with Mr. Stephen Ugla Negham. That's right?
That's correct.
All right. The Chairman and Managing Director of Suez Canal Container Terminal, SCCT. I would just ask you a simple question. Of course, I know each of you have his own presentation or the keynotes you want to share, but I have a basic question for you. For new investors, why Suez Canal Zone, and so far what's your experience in doing business there and your vision to the future of SCZONE?
Thank you very
Please,
much
thank
for the
you.
question and for the opening. And if I may just start off by firstly thanking the Suez Canal Zone for this opportunity today as an investor to be able to come and share our experience with you. SCCT, Suez Canal Container Terminal, has been present in Egypt for 20 years now. So we have considerable experience growing our investments in the country. SCCT today is we've invested $1 billion in developing a world-class container terminal to serve the Egyptian market and also the wider region. SCCT is today the largest container terminal in Egypt, and we are an important part of the economic infrastructure in the country. As His Excellency the Chairman mentioned in his presentation, Egypt is a tremendous market. It is a big market. It is also growing very rapidly. The government of Egypt has prioritized the development of robust and world-class infrastructure to facilitate the economic development of the country. And SCCT, as an enabler of trade, as a container terminal, plays a very important part in that. If I may answer the second part of your question about our experience as an investor in the country for over 20 years now, I'd like to say that we've firstly always felt welcome in the country as an investor. We've always felt very confident in our investments in the country. As I mentioned to you, SCCT, which is part of the AP Moller Terminals Group and the Maersk Group, which is a global, leading global integrator of container logistics, we've invested $1 billion in the country so far. We've always felt very comfortable with that investment, and the Suez Canal Zone and government agencies have always facilitated our development in a very progressive way. To answer the third part of the question, where you asked what are the things that need to be focused on going forward, I think I would commend the government authorities in Egypt, the Suez Canal Zone, the Suez Canal Authority, for being very progressive. So they've always acknowledged that one of the most important things to do in the country is to improve the ease of doing business. So they've always acknowledged that there are opportunities to improve, and they've always had a dialogue with us about how to improve that. And I think in the chairman's presentation, he also alluded to some of the digital technologies that the customs authorities and the government agencies in Egypt are endorsing to make the business much smoother in the country as well. And I'd just like to conclude by saying that we've been in the country for 20 years. We will continue to invest in the country. The chairman alluded as well to the expansion that we're looking at as we continue to grow in Egypt and continue to grow with the economy of Egypt as well.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we will have another opportunity this session to expand on more points.
Sure.
Now I will turn to Engineer Karim Saad. Karim Sami Saad. Karim today is in his capacity as the chairman of Samcrete of Eastport Said Development Company, EP. Engineer Karim in this capacity act as industrial developer and started with the Eastport Said site, and I think it's very important that the to focus on the fact that one of the strategies made by SCZONE is to have sub-developers in to develop different zones, and each developer or each industrial development zone will be focusing on certain industries, and this is part of the strategy has been made in 2016, and Karim was the first to start with SCZONE, and we would like to Karim, Engineer Karim, to I'm saying Karim because he's a friend, an old friend, so but Engineer Karim, we would like you to explain to us what exactly you are doing, what has been accomplished so far, and what industries you managed to attract, and what is the strategy you are following up in developing your economic zone. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Hani. Thank you, Admiral Osama and Engineer Yahya, for mandating a fully Egyptian partnership with this heavy undertaking of developing the industrial zone of Eastport Said. We started with the Suez Canal Authority and the Suez Canal Development Authority since 2015 with this idea of also developing the north node of the Suez Canal Development Zone. And it was our claim, being since 50 years in business and also in partnership with numerous multinationals in setting up FDIs in industry and in other businesses in the region and in Egypt, to make sure that we are serving our possible clients, serving their interests, and making sure that their entry into the market is a seamless entry with their concentration on doing what they can do best, produce and export either to Egypt, to Africa, or the world. I have to say that our selection of the North Node, despite the challenges of it, one challenge is the issue of the soil condition, which we are now proving that we are mastering by putting up our first factory on the ground. It's a serious heavy factory, which is a factory of rolling stock of railway wagons, is a proof that everything is achievable. But another dimension of things is why Eastport Said is an important destination for the world economy. And COVID has proved that this is more in need. On the one side, the need of the Southeast Asia industries to access the Mediterranean and Europe with products which it is proving more problematic to access from where they produce away by 14 or 20 days of shipping days, and coming into the region and into the zone by these industries to access Africa and Europe with their industries is a more reasonable decision to take. But on the other hand, what we understand more about the need of the European industries to reduce their costs to be more competitive to these competitors coming from every other part of the world. And we do understand that industries in Central Europe in particular need to bring down their cost, and need to, in bringing down their cost, not depend on Southeast Asia for developing their value chain of supplies, but be more regional and more concentrated in the type of supply routes in the 1, 2, and 3 day type of shipping time. Being in the Mediterranean is something which will definitely help. We are not land developers who are delivering industrial plots for industrialists to come and do it. At East Portside, we have an agreement with Engineer Yahya and his teams that we are, as he mentioned, developing together what's more relevant in industrial strategies, concepts, and clusters, which would be more helpful to shape concepts and help the targeted industries to come and do business. I will be touching on 3 types of industries which we are currently developing either on the ground or in the process of developing some concepts, and my colleagues on the panel also will touch on some of these concepts we are together developing. However, we have more in the pipeline, and we are suited and prepared to work with any industrial developer to develop his concepts to the markets we are targeting in order to put the proper legislation, services, and accessibilities in place to serve this type of industry as well. As Engineer Yahya mentioned, we are mandated to develop 16 square kilometers, first phase of 4 million square meters. We have 1 million square meter developed and ready. We are in the process of developing another 2 million in the coming year, 2022. And in our 16 million square meters, we are targeting 1,200 factories with around 400,000 job opportunities. I will start with our automotive mandate, which was, since inception of our EP company, something we foresaw. And what's happening in COVID these days is mandating more, and what's happening in the automotive industry in the world, transforming into EV and into self-driving systems, is changing the whole way this industry is going to operate in the coming decade, 10 years, which also gives a need for fresh investments, new concepts, and concepts which are different from what has been used to in the previous 2 decades of concentrating more on Southeast Asia for the supply chain. And what happened in the supply chain problems we all hear about with the chip supplies and so on, mandates that more regional contained developments are developed. We are currently working with 2, increasing to 3 of the major OEMs of the world to develop an industrial hub for automotive manufacturing. Actually, the picture here is we took from Tanger, and Tanger is a very, very successful model for helping the French automotive industry continuing to be competitive, and this is our cry for Central European OEMs, that this needs to be looked at, replicated, and we at East Portside are very much willing to support this. And it's not only European manufacturers. On the panel, we have Mr. Mike Whitfield from Nissan, and Nissan and Mr. Mike sees very much how important this concept is altogether, and he will represent the interest of his group in showing us why is he seeing that. The second is more dependent on our government support, our Ministry of Transport support, and our conviction that Egypt will be a country in high demand of new rolling stock for railways. And that's why our proposition to the government of Egypt to localize more of the new technology rolling stocks in Egypt in the coming years. Egypt will be buying 3,000-4,000 wagons of electric-driven rolling stock in the coming 10 years to support its infrastructure. As Engineer Yahya has been showing the road network, the road network, will extend into railway network into Egypt and into Africa, and this will even demand more rolling stock to be in service. And for that, this is a medium tech industry which does not deserve to be imported. And we have seen that any country of the size of Egypt in putting up such development plans need to be localizing more of that. This factory is currently under construction, and I have to say this picture also comes from a neighboring country with one of our OEMs in negotiation have put up in 14 months in a neighboring country, and this is our target to put something like that and be operational before end of next year with our first phase. We also are in some negotiation with our possible partner OEMs of already demands for export into Africa out of this facility. Just to conclude, our third is supply chain and packaging. And East Port Said in particular would fit into a perfect location, not only to be a strategic hub for supply chain of food and FMCG type of products, but not to Egypt, but also to the region. And it's a target of our president, His Excellency President Sisi, that Egypt has its own supply strategic setups for our country, but also for Southeast Mediterranean. And we believe that for the location, for the facilities, for the port in existence, and for the Suez Canal bringing immediately into our zone the materials for such a supply chain is something which fit to be this type of packaging and supply chain hub. Also to address a numerous type of consumers in different languages, in different specifications to supply into the Mediterranean. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm very much interested into discussing in one-on-ones with my colleagues here in the room the possibilities even to help with more strategic plans to develop your visions into being more localized in the Mediterranean, and we are here to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Karim. I'm sure that the highlights on these industries does not mean that you are excluding other industries, and I understand also just that you are open to all types of services and industries, and this would rely also, you are open to all proposals that come from different investors. Now I'll turn to into my right to our third speaker, Mr. Mike Whitefield, Managing Director, Nissan Africa, and Chairman of the Association of African Automotive Manufacturers, AAAM. Mike, I understand that you have, in your capacity as the Chairman of the AAAM, a good plan for Egypt and Africa, particularly in the car manufacturing, and would like, I heard this yesterday from Engineer Yahya and Engineer Karim, and we would like very much to hear more about your plan, why SCZONE, and what's exactly your proposal you are making to the investors in this industry, and the details of that project, and how you can create from SCZONE as a hub for the car industry.
First of all, thank you very much, Dr.
Welcome.
And to Engineer Zaki and Admiral and
I think we need to fix the mic for Mike. Yes,
right,
now yes.
So first of all, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you all today. And certainly as Nissan Motor Company and as the only 100% globally owned automotive OEM currently in Egypt, we believe we have a key role to play in not only creating an environment for the Egyptian auto industry, but also to create Egypt as a key player in the auto industry. And as Dr. said, I play two roles. Obviously, I represent Nissan in Africa, but the other side of it is I represent the Association of Auto Manufacturers in Africa. And it is critical that we all work together to create and attract the whole value chain of automotive into Egypt. And certainly the economic zone in Suez and the work with East Port Said are very critical to creating that environment and that infrastructure. I must say that the interactions that we've had up to now have been very open, very encouraging, particularly with the government. The government is very open to realizing and creating what we're showing here, and that is that Egypt for us, not only again, as I say, as Nissan, but as the auto industry, has a strong potential to become the most important auto hub in the region. And particularly as Engineer Karim mentioned earlier, the auto industry is very much moving from globalization to regionalization. And we've, I think the indications of the chip issue is just one catalyst that has driven that. But also very importantly, if we look at the global trends on EV and the direction that it's going, and Engineer Zaki mentioned that the two industries that they have identified, automotive and EV batteries, are very, very critical. But when I come back to the issue of regionalization, is the adoption of EV is not going to be at the same pace globally. So without doubt, in the next 5 years, you're going to see 60 to 70% of all automotive sales in Europe being EV. Certainly the US is not going to be at that level, and the continent that we are part of, and which I'll touch on just now, Africa will get and move towards adoption of EVs, but it will lag. It is not going to be a leader in it. And I think if I can maybe get the buttons, sure. I can just, thank you very much. Thank you. So why do we say, why do we see Egypt and Africa as critical? And let me try and illustrate this from why we as an auto industry see Africa as the last frontier of automotive. And let me take two very simple examples. If we take Africa and we take India, population of Africa and India pretty much the same, 1.3 billion. GDP per capita not far off, 1.7 versus 2. But then the significant point is today the Africa auto market accounts for 1.3 million vehicle sales per annum. Egypt's at 4.4. Why? Egypt, strong liberalization of policies, good cooperation between industry and government in establishing that, and very importantly, a strong drive to create the whole value chain. The automotive industry does not just bring the assembly of vehicles, it brings the full value chain, and the key element is you will not get OEMs unless you also bring the feeder industry or the supply chain and global tier one suppliers. So for us, we're looking at the whole lot. And automotive and Africa really should be going together, and it shouldn't be, the potential shouldn't be from outside of Africa. We need to realize that the frontier is there, and Egypt has a significant role to play. Why? We see Egypt as a gateway for Africa, and the industrialization is a real means of unlocking that potential. And if we look at the table here, Egypt, 62 vehicles per 1,000, huge potential there. Current TRV, only 230. Positive GDP, it's higher, is higher than that. That was 2020. But if you look at the table that we're actually showing, you will see what has been achieved by everyone working together in terms of a growth of an auto industry. And India, a very good example. Turkey, another good example. Morocco, South Africa. And what we believe as not only Nissan, but the industry, is Egypt has that potential to grow. What it's going to require is cooperation and integration of the full value chain. And from our experiences up to now, the interaction that we are having, both as a AAAM and Nissan, have been very, very positive in that journey. If we look at it, we committed to the Egyptian market. We are, as I said, fully 100% invested in it. And if I touch on some of the key areas that we're looking at, one, the economic reforms that are there, the openness to discuss, the accessibility to key markets, and I'll touch on that just now, The export program that Engineer Zaki referred to, critical, absolutely critical to driving this industry. And that, again, was done, and from the time that discussions started between the industry and all stakeholders and government, and Dr. Fikri was very much part of that, was, I think, 6 months. And I don't know any other case in the world where industry and the government have interacted and put together a very comprehensive strategy on export in such a short time. And I refer back to also the government's determination. So why? One, we need to attract global tier supplies. We need the Africa offers, Egypt and Africa offers the economies of scale for all of us in this industry, particularly to the components, very attractive and openness to create an environment for automotive to invest in the country, and something that I think we need to, as Egypt and the automotive industry pay more attention to, is the speed at which the Africa Free Trade Agreement is moving forward. There's automotive has been adopted as one of the key pillars of it. We're very close, or the negotiators are very close to reaching an agreement in terms of rules of origin, which will be 40% originating content out of Africa. And that, I believe, will play a significant factor in building a value chain in Egypt. The infrastructure is there, and without doubt, we see the location of the Suez Economic Zone, the work that's going on now, as an environment and the ingredients that we all need to mix together to make Egypt the key player in the automotive hub of Africa and the region. And certainly from a Nissan perspective, we're actively engaged in working on that. We're currently working together with, as a AAAM, with various stakeholders, including Suez Zone, East Port Said, the government, in creating an automotive policy and strategy for Egypt to actually realize that potential. So I'm more than happy to take any questions later, but certainly from my side, this is the start of a journey that potentially, if we look at the speed that the Moroccan automotive industry grew from virtually nothing to 600,000 production, we're looking at maybe 8 to 10 years. I believe with the SCZONE, with the government, with all stakeholders, that Egypt can achieve that result a lot quicker if we all work together. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mike, and for this insight. Now I will turn to our fourth guest today, Mr. Yoshiro Hidaka.
Yes.
The general manager of Toyota Tsusho Egypt branch.
Yes.
I hope I got all right.
Yes.
So, Mr. Hidaka, I think we will be very interested in hearing what you are doing in SCZONE and what are the plans, because also I have been told yesterday that you have a quite ambitious plan for more business, and particularly in the rolling, call it rolling industry. So we would like to hear from you on what are you doing in SCZONE, how do you evaluate your experience with SCZONE, and what would you be your message to the potential investors in that area?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you much for the invitation for this session. So I'm in the Yasushi Hidaka, general for the Asia branch for Toyota Tsusho Corporation. In the our Roro terminals, in the three consortium, in the three company, in three international company. One is the Bolloré in the Africa, and this is in the first private port in the operator in Africa. And second, Nippon Yusen Kaisha. This is worldwide in the Japanese leader for shipping and logistics company providers. And Toyota Tsusho Corporation. Toyota Tsusho Corporation is in Egypt have a long history since more than 85 years. we are present in Egypt. And this is the member of the consortium. Consortium is in the Roro terminal. So now, okay. Yes. So we talk about this member of the consortium. Yes. Yes. We will explain to the current situation we explain to the history of this project in 2016, and we have made an MOU with SCZONE. And after that, after in-depth discussion in 2019, we signed the concession agreement with SCZONE. And this year, May, the final completion procedures approved by the Egyptian government. Thanks for big effort to Dr. Yahya, and we finally started. And then this year June, we this year April we established the SCAT, Suez Container Automotive Terminal, and we already established the company. And this year in 2021 in the June, we actual commencement of this project. And now we start for the construction, and now at the moment the design stage, and we are targeted in the operation 2023 for the beginning. So this is the current situation. And the second question, why we decide investment for this in the Roro terminal? Actually, this Roro terminal is in the first Roro terminal in Egypt. So this is we are challenging, but we have many two reasons. One reason is and to explain to everybody that Egypt has launched in the Impress Economic Development Program and placed in the Central Economic Zone. This is cause. And these countries is in the world for in the future Canal economic zone will become world-class economic hub and attractive place in the investment. And SCZONE wish to attract a major automotive player to set up an automotive factory. So that means our consortium to encourage for this issue. And the consortium in the SCZONE is currently in the building for Roro terminal in the both sides, EXPO side, to provide a gateway for international market. And the second reason is in the site for structural location and already 600 meters in the key, and it's 70 in the depth. That means in the facility is ready. That means our scope in the construction side in the just backyard. So that means it is easy to start to develop and start for the operation for this Roro terminal. That means not long time. That means almost in the key portion is ready. And the third point is other young and growing Egyptian population. And as you know, now in the number of the car is increase. In the 2020, in the around 231,000. And in the import in the car around 137,000. And this year, at the current moment, that when compared to last year, is already 47% in the increase. That means we expected. That means in this Egypt also big demand. So that's why in the one reason for investment in this project. Okay.
Thank you very much for this insight. And now I'll turn to our last, but not definitely least, our fifth speaker, Engineer Ahmed Swedi. Ahmed is the President CEO of Swedi Electrics. Of course, Engineer Ahmed has too many hats and too many experiences. being an industrial man, and this is his core business, but he has been also in other businesses, including real estate and other investments, and also Ahmed is in charge of the Al Ain Al Sukhna being an industrial developer. That's a new field that El Sridi is venturing. Of course, Engineer Ahmed, being with an industrial background, being in the a leading company in export business, I think you believe very strongly in the Al Ain Al Sukhna and SCZONE being a hub for exportation. We would like also to have some insight from your side on your project. What's your plan? What has been achieved so far? What kind of industries you are focusing on? And also your experience in terms of the availability of infrastructure, your satisfaction with the infrastructure and facilities available. I know you are open. Also, you don't keep your criticism to yourself, but I'm sure you have positive points and also some advices to the other investors of what they need to do. So floor is yours, and we'd like to hear more about your experience being industrial developer in Ain Al Sukhna.
Thank you, Hani. Thank you very much. First, I want to thank Dr. Yahya Zaki giving me this opportunity, and of course Admiral Osama for really being there. We are Suez Electric. We are a company working in infrastructure mainly and manufacturing. More than 50 countries worldwide, between North Africa, the Gulf region, all over Europe, Indonesia, Pakistan. We manufacture in more than 20 countries worldwide. Really, from our experience, we believe that Egypt is the industry or is the factory of the region. From a lot of points, we have been, even from the profit-wise, even Egypt for us is more profitable on the level of our balance sheet, because our balance sheet is in the news. It's public because we are a public company. For a lot of reasons, in Egypt we have more than 25 as a company, more than 25 factories. We have more than 15,000 employees. We export more than 50% of our exports mainly to Europe, the Gulf region, and Africa. Because we are able to compete. We are able to compete with the Turkish companies from Turkey, the Chinese, Indians. So we are able really to compete on the quality and on the price levels and cost-wise. Why Egypt? In my point of view, we have the labor which are available. We are more than 100 million people living in Egypt. We are more than 50% are young. The same thing, the infrastructure, the electricity, we have more than 60 giga now available. The roads, bridges, water, all this have been developed in the last 5 years. So really we have the complete infrastructure for the base for the industry. If you compare us with other countries in the region, there is no even comparison. On the point of view, also the Sukhna port, we believe very much in this Sukhna region. We have more than, now we have a new city of the 10 million meters, which we are developing. We have already developed around 10 millimeters between Sadat city and Ashim Marwan city, and also October. But this is a new one on 10 millimeters. But we have a very aggressive plan to be developed within 12 months. We'll begin. We are ready to be on ground. We are building in this in this city. We have, it's almost, and from the port, it's only 3-4 minutes from the port. The same thing we are now doing in this place where we are building vocational schools for teaching the operators and the calibers how to develop the calibers. The same thing we are doing here on this place also, university for attracting people even to university for the technical universities or technological universities. Here also we have some small hotel. The same thing we have also small hospital and complete small residential place, and the rest is the factories. So I believe very much in this region. Really, I believe this region can make a big difference in Egypt and make difference even in the exports of Egypt. And this is our main target, because I believe very much in Egypt is the industry, so we can really develop this area within 2 years to be one of the biggest areas in Egypt as an industry. This is simply what we are doing, and this is how we are developing it. This is what we are planning to do for the next 2 years. And this is our vocational school that we want to teach around 2,000 students for the factories who will be there in the region. And this already, we are already began to build this place. So thank you much, and I'm happy to be there. And also I would love to say that Egypt for the Africa, it can be the main gate for Africa, especially that we also as a company are available in more than 20 countries in Africa. And I believe very much there is no way to go to Africa except through Egypt and through this place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Ahmed. I think that's a strong message to conclude with, that Egypt, and in particular SCZONE, is the gateway to Africa in many industries. I would like, before we, now we are on time, actually that's rare to happen in such conferences, so this reflects the discipline that SCZONE has and our investors have. I think Mersik has 2 minutes video would like to share with you, so since we have enough time, we would like to see those 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's a good visualization of what's happening in East Port Said.
So
videos will share.
So they would like to share with you their experience in Port Said. join us for the Q&As, but I got a note. Obviously, we missed a presentation of Toyota. So for 3 minutes, Mr. Vasili will catch up and he will introduce to make the presentation. So we have equal treatment to all our investors. Please. You need the... So we will start after this presentation by Toyota. We'll start immediately the Q&As for 25 minutes, so in order to keep the time going on. Thank you.
So, good afternoon. At first, I would like to thank His Excellency Engineer Yahya for giving us the opportunity to introduce Toyota Tsusho first investment project in port business in Egypt. TTC, together with Bolloré Africa Logistic and NYK, have jointly signed a 30-year contract concession agreement with the Suez Canal Economic Zone for the establishment and operation of the first dedicated Ro-Ro terminal in Egypt for vehicle import, export, and transshipment. For this purpose, we have incorporated a joint stock company called Suez Canal Automotive Terminal, which we later refer by SCAT. Our project strength is coming from one strong consortium consisting of Toyota Tsusho, a Japanese general trading and investment company in Toyota Group. TTC is existing in Egypt since 1933. TTC is quite familiar with the Egyptian market for more than 85 years. Bolloré, French biggest PPP player in Africa, investing and operating in more than 50 African ports. NYK, Japanese #1 car carrier vessel operator, having their unique and know-how in automotive logistics. Utilizing the three shareholder knowledge, SCAT vision is to become the state-of-the-art Ro-Ro terminal in the region by providing an efficient end-to-end operation and smooth administrative environment, which will be contribute to the Egyptian automotive market development. Eventually, SCAT will be able to provide a high-class service to each of shipping line by offering efficient operation and competitive port dues, as well as bringing feeder service to East Port Said. Local OEM will receive an efficient end-to-end and value-added service. Importer will benefit from low storage rate and smooth logistics flow. From this slide, you can see location of our terminal, which is 200 kilometers far from Cairo and 260 kilometers from Alexandria, where most of importer and OEM have their logistic warehouse. SCAT has a strategic location on Asian route, which contribute by more than 50% of the total import volume. The geographical location of East Port Said is an advantage for SCAT to be #1 transshipment hub in the area, connecting between European and Asian route. SCAT complies with the state strategy to turn East Port Said to a manufacturing and industrial automotive hub. Thanks to Egyptian government to improve the road network, the accessibility to East Port Said became very easy. As you can see in this slide, several new road networks were implemented in the last few years. In addition to the huge road network, 6 new tunnels started their operation, 2 from Port Said, 2 from Ismailia, and 2 from Suez, which resulting in having an impressive connectivity with East Port Said. Here you can see the characteristic of our terminal. The berth length is 600 meters, which can accommodate 2 big Ro-Ro vessels. 17-meter draft, which is more than enough for the biggest Ro-Ro vessel. Our backyard is 22.5 hectares, with a storage capacity more than 8,000 vehicles, according to the Japanese standard. As future investment, SCAT will equipped with a floating berth for vessel with straight ramp, so any vessel can call our terminal. As you can see in our layout, we located the export and transshipment vehicles plot next to the berth, while the imported vehicle near to car carrier loading area. By such classification, we are minimizing the movement of the vehicle, which is one of the efficient port factors. SCAT advantage. dedicated terminal for Ro-Ro vessel, no container, no other type of cargo. No congestion. For your info, this is the real photo from NYK terminal in the Bruges. Specialized stuff for vehicle handling. By such way, we can achieve 0% defect and accident. Simplified logistic chain. We are working on ensuring a smooth custom clearance process. Long lead time storage. Value-added service like PGI and customization depend on each importer requirement. Fully integrated and automated terminal operation system, via which importer can track their vehicle until reaching their warehouses. Here are some pictures for the current status of the terminal. Berths completed. As for the backyard, the leveling is done and the technical process is ongoing, targeting to have our commercial operation by beginning of 2023. Thank you very much.
I think it's very important to share with you your experience and what has been achieved so far. And now the floor is open for discussions and for your questions. So we are ready to listen to your questions or inquiries or any comments. Don't be shy. Go ahead. Mike here, please.
Very good afternoon. My name is Sajid Kumar. I am the CEO and MD of IBMC Financial Professionals Group. So my question to His Excellency Engineer Yahya, about while watching your presentation, you had mentioned new target 12 industries. Targeted industries, 12 industries, including bunkering and all. And can you please explain about the FDI norms, and is there any project is available for PPP?
Can you be the
foreign
question?
direct investment norms, and second, for these 12 the targeted industries, is there any PPP projects available? Public-private participation projects. Thank you.
Well, yes. The short answer is yes. It depends on the nature of the project itself. Yeah. It depends on the nature of the project itself. If I understand your question correctly, let me say that the economic zone is the regulator of the area, but in special cases with the help and integration with developers, we look into PPP arrangements and other sort of projects that can be entertained. We do have such models already happening, and this is part of what we try to put as an objective to achieve our strategy by creating the opportunity. That also means that we do participate as a government with the private sector into develop particular projects.
Foreign direct investment norms.
Foreign direct investment percentage of participation from the private sector outside Egypt?
Well, we do have our regulations. Again, it's a case by case, but the norms are the general rules of the way of doing business and the incentives and this and that is already established, and we'll be able to share this with you at the end of the presentation. The more important thing is we are set for two different approaches. One is for localizing industries or investments in the economic zone for exportation that has its own set of regulations. And the other approach is to deal with the local market. Okay. How to deal with the local market and have accessibility to the local market. Okay. It depends on the type of industry. It depends on the local component that contributes in 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 this particular industry, and so on. But there is a set of regulations that we've managed to change our internal regulations and the executive regulations that are related to the economic zone law. That was established in 2015, but we've made amendments to it, and it is published last year or the beginning of this year, January 2021. And it does give a very clear distinction on how to adapt the two approaches as such. I think we're going to circulate the website and so on. It will have a section that shows this kind of
on the incentive presentation, you had mentioned 5 years the residential permit for the foreign investors.
Yes.
But what I was asking, the percentage of investment.
Can I ask you a favor, sir, if you can take it off the screen so we can hear you?
Yeah, I hope that I'm also vaccinated. So the percentage of investment in the PPP, whether we can, foreigners can take the major stake on that, or government will take major stake?
Again, it depends on the
case-to-case basis.
But it's not the interest of the government to take majorities and to take over projects. We're here to invite investors to particular projects. If we find reasons and ways that the economic zone would want to be part of the equity, let's say, and shareholders, we will look into it on a project basis.
Thank you.
Engineer Karim,
but it's it's not a mandatory approach to go through PPP. The main approach really is the other way around, is to facilitate for investors.
Oh, so the private, it's 100% allowed?
Yes. 100%.
Clear.
Yes.
Engineer Karim, I think you wanted to...
I just wanted to elaborate on toll manufacturing, because you mentioned it. And that's something we're entertaining these days. In our proposition in the automotive proposal for an automotive park, the concept of partial toll manufacturing in the value chain is something we're putting up now. So for example, because if you're in automotive, you know that a paint shop is the most expensive component of an investment, and because every OEM is now strained in their financials, so we're putting up a model which is not normal, that we invest together with the OEMs in a central paint shop, and then the paint shop is doing toll manufacturing to the different OEM operators, and they have their own factories in the background for assembling of their vehicles. So the law allows it. In practice, it is being done now, and there is a lot of demand on Gulf investment and the sovereign fund of Egypt in investing and shouldering this. Now, as Engineer Yahya said, that's not mandatory. The money is available to co-invest when the investor would like to invest. But like what Mr. Mike Whitfield has been saying, 100% ownership of Nissan in Egypt is owned by Nissan. So that's a possibility in Egypt and in the SCZONE as well.
Yeah, one more question is there, sorry, to Mr. Steve. You had mentioned in your presentation that the comparison between Africa and India, the vehicle sales, so that's from, I think, sorry.
Your comparison between Africa and India.
Africa, yes. India, yeah, that's 4.4 versus 1.3. So in such a situation, where do you see that India's next visionary, the sales, and comparing to Africa?
A difficult question, because I mean, India's automotive industry is obviously predominantly focused on domestic. There's growing export, whereas in the case of what we're talking about, Egypt, you're going to have two things that are going to happen. Within 5 to 6 years, the Egyptian market will be the largest in Africa. And by 2035, we believe that the African market can actually be equal to or larger than India. So, and you have the Africa Free Trade Agreement with rules of origin. So now is the time to actually be establishing automotive in Africa, for Africa, and we believe that Egypt is one of the key sources of that.
Yeah, any protection to India from Egypt is happening?
At the moment, as far as I recall, the duty structure into India doesn't allow any of us to come in there. Makes it very difficult.
Thank you.
Let's put it that way.
We have a question in the back here.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for this massive and this is a great presentation by the whole experts. I am Haytham Ata, Contracts and Commercial Manager in Administrative Capital for Urban Development. And I'm happy to see the development corridor extends from east of Cairo up to Suez Canal. I have one question, and I want to make use of the whole expertise here regarding the infrastructure and utilities management in the Suez Canal zone. Is there any different approach or strategy comparing to other areas or other zones or other cities in Egypt, as we try in the new administrative capital to start I call it as a pioneer trial to make it through specific companies for electricity, for water, for gas, for whatever, to establish joint stock companies between the new administrative and the other experts or the other multinational companies from outside to make use of their expertise in managing the utilities. So I want to have a look what the Suez Canal zone will do in this file. Thank you.
I think Engineer Yahya probably want to throw lights.
Sorry?
Just because in your presentation you highlighted on the infrastructure facilities, and probably if Engineer Swedi and Engineer Karim would like to add also, because they are sub-developers, so they might have their own ideas on infrastructure. So we'll start with Engineer Yahya.
Two things I need to say here. First, as I tried to mention in the presentation, is the availability of the infrastructure. We had to we had to master plan and invest in the provision of the main sources of infrastructure into the economic zone to cover particular amount of years. Then we're still planning for the next stages to come. But I think your question touches more on the management of the utilities and so on. It's not something that we are looking for yet to do, but it is something that is already took place 2 years ago. We have established a company, Suez Canal Utilities, it's called. It's a joint venture between the economic zone and the private sector. Sitting at my left-hand side here, Mr. Swedi, we have established a company together called Suez Canal Utilities that is mandated to administer all the infrastructure utilities in terms of provision and operation and maintenance as well for the SCZONE area as well. This company is already established, is already functioning, and it's doing a very good job. Do you want to add to it?
Of course, I just want to add that, as I mentioned, I have been working in more than 50 countries. Really, the main problem, wherever you go, any place worldwide, number one, to find the land. Number two, to find the facilities and to see the utilities. And these two things, you can reach in Cairo or Egypt in just less than 1 day. Either the land, either all the utilities that support you for the industry. And of course, whenever we have a need, we're able to supply this less than 30 days if needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir, we need a mic here, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hani. My name is Dr. Tariq Shahlan, Chief Industry Advisor for Cargo Transportation and Logistics, Europe, Middle East, and Africa at SAP. My question to His Excellency, Engineer Yahya, and also to Mr. Mike. Well, this is a very ambitious plan, and what makes it actually very unique is the competitive and comparative advantage that Suez Canal zone and Egypt have actually on this beautiful world map. My question here is regarding first the automotive. You have mentioned that the automotive industry is one of the big ones that you are focusing specifically for providing for the African market. Wanted to ask on this regard, for the current automotive plan that you have, second tier and third tier suppliers, how long it will take in order to close the loop and have this Suez Canal Economic Zone as the main provider for the entire value chain of current automotive industry. The second thing is, what is your thoughts also regarding the EVs? Because as we know, by year 2030, Europe will go through mainly the fossil fuel ban and the move now towards the sustainable transportation units and material handling equipment as well. So what's our plan also to expand on this perspective? Thank you.
Okay, let me start first with the second question, then we can share the first question. One of the deep dive sectors that I have showed is related to EV, and it is a sector that we have identified and we've studied with external consultants, and we believe that there is definitely a very huge market for that in Europe and in the area, the region altogether. And Egypt, the economic zone as well, is very suitable for starting such an incubators for this project as well. We have done our deep dive studies, and we will be very soon ready to discuss, as I've mentioned, on one-to-one basis with different manufacturers around the world that are also being identified to attract them to take this opportunity and work on localizing these projects in the economic zone. Now, this even touches bases with the first question, the supply chain, okay? So we are adapting cluster policy, the clusters policy. So in East Port Said in specific, we have started already, as Mr. Karim has mentioned, the rolling stock factory. That needs its supply chain of requirements. Hopefully, by the end of the year, we would have completed the initiative of the automotive, and that will give, pave the way for really starting the industry there. There are similarities in these two clusters, so the supply chain that we believe has to take place there will serve both industries, and feeding industries will become part of the whole arrangement of these two clusters in a great manner. Adding to that is the readiness of the port and the connectivity of the port, and what we're trying to mention, like the integrated area, the port, the industrial and logistic area, all together are working under one management, under one set of rules that defines really how we go about really securing the supply chain. There is a lot to learn from what's happening nowadays in the supply chain, and I think as we've done last year in the COVID-19, there are lessons to learn, and from the turbulence that is taking place right now in the supply chain, there is a lot that we can do and lessons to learn and how to make use of it for the future. Mike, you might like to add.
So I think, thank you. The two issues. One is, as I mentioned, with EVs, you have this move towards regionalization because every market is going to, or every region is going to develop at different paces. However, the one guaranteed point is we're all going to, at some stage, end up with EVs. Africa will probably follow later. Egypt will probably be one of the early adopters within Africa. But fundamental to any manufacturing of EVs is going to be battery plant. So I think that is the one critical area that has been identified from a battery perspective. You ask about the full value chain. Two critical things. One is we will never have a vibrant, value-added auto industry if we don't have depth of localization. And the two go hand in hand. So if we create the auto industry, feeder industry suppliers will come with, because the objective certainly in our discussions with the Egyptian stakeholders, is we don't want to just purely be an assembly operation putting kits together. We need to develop deep localization, real localization, and create the economies of scale that the feeding industry is not only feeding the automotive industry in Egypt, but also component exports. I think a very good example of that is the wiring harness business, where 95% of all the production in Egypt actually goes to Europe. The other key opportunity, I believe, is what we're saying of the Future Africa Free Trade Agreement, on the assumption that the rules of origin does get adopted at 40% Africa originating content, really is a strong driver to also develop the feeding industry. But that all being said, the infrastructure, the industrial area, the free zones are one very critical element that has moved very fast. The other element we're all working on together is to create that automotive vision and policy within Egypt, because the one thing that will never happen is you're not going to get an industry built just for export. It has to look at both the domestic market and the export market. The two go hand in hand. So at the currently, all indications are very positive that we will move in that direction.
Thank you very much. We are running out of time. However, we can take two more quick questions, and then we'll close at that. So we'll have gentleman in the back, just behind you. Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm Ibrahim Hassanin from Allied Consultants, Dubai. The first question is regarding the huge workforce that will be in that area. Is there a developing plan, like residential developing plan at the area for like maybe mini cities? Because I've seen that it's about 400,000 employees will be working there in the presentation. That's the first one. The second one is about the sustainability. Are there specific sustainability guidelines for the development of the infrastructures, such as using district cooling plants instead of the regular cooling systems, or desalination plants? I have seen the desalination plant, but regarding the electrical production and the cooling production. Thank you.
For requirements to serve people working there, it's not only 400,000. We're really looking to more than 1 million jobs to be created in the area by 2030 and beyond. So yes, there are plans at a national, regional level, okay, by developing two major hubs. One is called East Port Said Salam project, which is east of where we have right now. It's 20 kilometers away from the industrial zone in East Port Said. This is developed in coordination with the Ministry of Housing in Egypt, and that's a full-size city, complete with all its services, with all its amenities and infrastructure, and of course housing, schools and hospitals and everything. Similarly, there is a project that is starting very soon, which is the new Suez city, which is adjacent to the economic zone plot that I showed you in the map, the 210 square kilometers. It's just on the edge of the new Suez city. That on the macro level, but also, as I've mentioned, we have 14 developers working in the area. Two of them are on the panel. Two more are with us here. Each one has their own project within the development of their project, of their area, that they can also house workers and people in relation to to the developments taking place over there. So to a great extent, yes, it is supplied. Sustainability is something we're looking at from time to time. I think our main focus as I've mentioned in the first 5 years, was the availability of infrastructure, okay, and sustainability in terms of the quantities and making sure that it covers our provisions to a great extent, and this is already taking place. Turning into district cooling and so on, we have not yet reached this stage, but definitely we'll be looking to more advanced and more sustainable approaches beyond 2025. If anyone wants to add something.
حسنا دكتور طارق بس ناخد ندي فرصة اللي ما اتكلمش. You sir. وراك behind you.
Hani Nedi, Governmental Director for Governmental Affairs for SCCT. Actually, it's not a question, but it's for you, Dr. Hani, directly. 2 days ago, His Excellency President of Egypt have announced ending state of emergency. And this was an outstanding decision had been taken by the government of Egypt. So I would like to have from Your Excellency your overviews and your key message for the investors about issuing such a decree.
To be honest with you, this status of emergency, we have been living in Egypt. I have been living in Egypt, most of my age under, and we never felt it. It's only for a limited areas and to face certain danger areas, which we have never felt or been affected in Cairo or Egypt or any other investors. So yet it is a great step because it now covers all of Egypt, but it has never been really affecting the investment or the growth or the economy or the freedom of movements at any respect. So yet it is a good step forward. However, not fundamental from investment perspective because it has been always free and safe for investors. But yet it is, I would say, an administrative or constitutional act to establish what has been the case for the past 30 or 40 years. We would like to have 2 questions. Dr. Tart has to be very brief because you already asked before. So
I'll make it very quick. I wanted to ask about the high-speed internet. Do we have some plans to have higher speed internet, especially that we have seen here that you also have an ambitious plan to adopt and to host data centers. So this would be very important for the adoption of the 5G and for, of course, the cloud adoption that's happening worldwide. Thank you, sir.
Yes, we are in discussion with the Ministry of Telecommunication on this note, and it is definitely something we're looking for in the near future. It's not adopted yet, but the full digitization of the area and the full transformation to digital is taking place. All our ports, hopefully, in a very short time, will be complete smart solutions but the high-speed internet and the 5G and so on, I think it has to come within a national approach altogether, but it is under discussion and it is potentially taking place soon.
Thank you. Final question.
John Dimitri from Egypt, of course. I'm working in the pharmaceutical sector. I'm just using our president's expression that Egypt has scored a goal in the energy sector, which was really a a success stories that were, of course, worldwide. Now Egypt is a hub for energy and energy transferring. How can we use the same success story as a model and an example for the localizing the manufacture, the auto manufacture, and also other industries like Mr. Karim and also Mr. Mike spoke about the comparative study between Africa and India. There is in Egypt 100 million population having good business for automotives, of course. How can we take the same example as a success story to be implemented also in the localizing this industry? Thank you.
Mike?
I think, as I say, is that all stakeholders work together to create the vision and strategy and policy that is good for Egypt and Africa and not for their own individual interests. I think that is going to be key, and that is certainly the journey that has started already.
I can add to this. I think you touched on a very interesting point. East Portside is at exactly the junction where foundry and casting business from Europe has to migrate south. And there is no concept and no reason for 15 million tons of casting, 5 million for the automotive industry in Germany, to be melted in Germany using natural gas coming from Egypt and the region of the Southeast Mediterranean. It makes more sense that this happens in the region where the gas is, using the manpower, the more competitive manpower, and be integrated in the supply chain of the engineering industries by and large, and the automotive industry in particular of Central Europe. So saying this note, according to Engineer Yahya Zaki, that's one target industry which definitely Egypt will be competitive on and which we will be promoting as well. Thank you for the question.
Well, I think it's the best thing to do is to conclude at this note on the competitiveness of edge of SCZONE. We are 15 minutes behind our schedule. So I would like to thank you all. I would like to thank our guests for your important notes and important information. And I think the beauty of this today that we learned more and heard more from the investors themselves rather than the authority, and we would like to have more discussions, I think, on that level. I would like to thank all of you, and I would like to thank Engineer Yahya for inviting me for this and to witness our effort that finally has become feasible. Thank you very much and wish you all good stuff. Thank you.
Light lunch, then we can go to the Egyptian pavilion for a special tour that I'm sure you're gonna like. Yeah. Please.